everyone, my name is Nonelo Zimketo and welcome to another session here at Wine Koza of our Taste Friday. Today we have the privilege of being hosted by Bellevue Wine Estate, and Wilhelm here is going to introduce himself and just lightly go through the list of wines that we're going to taste. Welcome Wilhelm. I hope we have a good tasting today. If you could just quickly go through the wines for us, please.
Thank you so much. The wines we're going to taste today is the current vintages 2022 of Sauvignon Blanc and Rosé. Then we're going to taste a single varietal Cinsaut, a Pinotage, a Shiraz, and a Malbec. A little bit about the farm, I think, before we start the tasting. Bellevue has an interesting story. It was given as a bribe by the notorious governor of the Cape, Willem Adrian van der Stel, in 1701 to a certain Christoffel Groenewald. Now this Groenewald character probably knew Willem Adrian well, and it was an under the table deal, and the farm was called Houdenbeck. Which I think it's self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Later on they changed it to Houdemont, which is an euphemism, just a very slightly more polite way of saying exactly the same thing. The Morkel family unfortunately didn't get it. They had to buy it in 1860. Dirkie Morkel is the fourth generation Morkel to farm Bellevue. He sold the farm a couple of years ago, but he's still our viticulturist and our general manager of the labour force and farming activities from day to day. My name is Wilhelm Kritzinger. I've been the winemaker since the 3rd of February 2002, so we celebrated 20 years in the cellar during the past harvest. Yes, a lovely place to be, interesting soils and a couple of interesting wines. Okay, shall we start with the Sauvignon Blanc?
Yes.
Previously we used to harvest the Sauvignon Blanc more on the green side. Worldwide the trend has changed, even in New Zealand, to harvest slightly riper to get more of the tropical side of the flavor profile. So in this wine, very much passion fruit, grenadella, pineapple. As it ages, you do see the green elements coming through. It will always show a bit of lychee, bit of asparagus, crushed green nettles. Sauvignon Blanc, in most cases, age in that way. Anyway, so we have to harvest a little bit riper, and to get that more friendly character of the tropical side. It was one of the FNB top 10 last year, the previous vintage, and interestingly enough, it had the second highest count on blackcurrant on the aroma wheel of all the wines, and everyone thought it was a cold climate thing, and we were the warmest climate Sauvignon Blanc at that stage in the FNB top 10. So it's more, we believe now, a soil thing and a combination between the soil and the specific yeast.
I actually like it. The nose is quite obvious. It's Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And typically you need that. You need that
Yeah.
varietal character that you don't wonder what it is. But again, as I say, worldwide, everyone's going for the showing a little bit of the friendlier side of Sauvignon Blanc as well. Yeah, any questions you guys are absolutely feel to ask.
It's 21, huh?
2022.
22 this year.
2022, yes. We keep it on the lees for about 3.5 months with an enzyme to break down the cell walls again, and then all those flavors that got caught up in the cells, in the yeast cells, get introduced back into the wine. So normally it's about 2.5, 3 months, pumping once a week or so the mallow lees, not the mallow, it doesn't do mallow, but the fine fermentation yeast, moving that around to just get everything back.
You don't do any melanotic conversion.
Not on the Sauvignon Blanc, no.
Okay.
No. On we're showing our estate range today. We do have a barrel fermented that does mallow Chardonnay in the reserve collection, but the Sauvignon Blanc we try and capture the freshness on. Okay. You guys ready for the next?
Yeah.
Okay. Rosé, everyone knows that, it is such a fashionable wine nowadays. It looks nice, it's supposed to taste nice, it's not just the ladies who have it, the men drink it as well. We see that in our restaurant on the farm. This is a rosé with a little bit of twist. It's not a classically made rosé. We don't have cold storage, and I don't have a press with cooling on it. So typically our rosés would go a little bit more onion skin color. And I think again, worldwide, the trend has been away from the onion skin more to that metallic salmon pink color. And the way we manage this is, I should have actually had you guess what it is. It is a 98% of unwooded Chardonnay, colored with 2% of single varietal Petit Verdot. Petit Verdot is the varietal with the darkest color, tiny berries, thick skins, the darkest color of all the varietals we have at Bellevue. I mean, we have the whole lot. We've got the Bordeaux 5, Pinotage, Cinsaut, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Shiraz, but Petit Verdot is the one that's got that black, purple color. When you're harvesting that, your hands, you look like a diesel mechanic. Your hands don't go red, they go black. And only 2% of that was needed to change a white wine into this beautiful metallic salmon color.
I never knew that it was so dark.
Yes, absolutely. We made this wine in a style that was friendly, so it was fermented dry, and then we very, very slightly lifted the sugar level, but it's still classified as dry because it's still under 5 grams a litre residual sugar. But just to get it a little bit friendlier, for people who want it to taste drier, I normally tell them cool it a little bit more because it seems drier when it's colder. If you want the tasting a little bit more off dry, serve it a little bit less cold and it will show sweeter.
What's the alcohol on this one?
Alcohol on this is normally about 13 to 13 and a half.
What I'm amazed at is the nose on your wines. Beautiful nose. Beautiful on the nose. The first two there are just...
Yeah, you see, we work with very low yielding vineyards. So it's only only like 4 tons per hectare. So those vines can concentrate all their energy into only so many bunches per vine, not a big crop. And that shows in the purity of fruit, which then is carried over into the nose, the aromatics, the palate.
Was it feasible financially for hectares? For transplant?
Not really. You have to do some clever marketing and make sure that the wines go into the right markets at that crop level. Unfortunately, Stellenbosch typically can do quality, but we cannot do quantity. And we need to also teach and train the consumer in that they understand it, have respect for it, and then hopefully be willing to pay for that.
So I have a question for you. Do you make 100% Petit Verdot?
I used to make 100% Petit Verdot, and I hope our boss is listening. I want to do it again. Actually, the 2005 vintage got top score worldwide in Decanter in the UK.
Wow.
As a single varietal Petit Verdot. It is difficult because we've got such a wide range of wines, marketing wise. But Petit Verdot on its own is typically not done as a single varietal. I love it because it's got that beautiful structure, but again on the Glen Rosa coffee clip soils we have it planted at Bellevue. It shows big tannins, but silky, voluptuous tannins, not harsh and aggressive dried out tannins. So hopefully somewhere in the future, I hope they're listening, we can do a single varietal Petit Verdot again. If you do 10 barrels, 1,000 bottles, small parcel, but it's a beautiful varietal to work with. And no names, no pactorals, but you wouldn't believe which wineries are buying a bit of Petit Verdot from us that they use to just spark up some of their other reds. It's an amazing variety. Right. Next up, one of my favorites is single varietal Cinsaut. When our parents studied in the 50s in Stellenbosch, Cinsaut was the bee's knees. Everyone had Cinsaut, and then sadly it went out of fashion because everyone chased extraction, dark, black wines, and they forgot about the Southern Rhone varietals, the wines that are more about aromatics than just extract and structure. And actually, it just makes so much sense to have a Cinsaut in the Cape Winelands, where a large portion of it is actually very warm in summer. And you know, by the time in summer you start getting heartburn from drinking Sauvignon Blanc, and the reds are difficult to drink, you know, if it's approaching 40 degrees Celsius outside. The Cinsaut, you can chill, put it in the refrigerator for half an hour, drink it at 13, 14 degrees centigrade, and because the tannins are so soft, it does not go harsh and metallic and aggressive. It stays friendly. It's an amazing wine for drinking slightly chilled. And also, I think it's a beautiful wine to teach someone who's new to red wines, to teach them about red wine, because it's not intimidating. It doesn't have those massive tannins. It's friendly, it's approachable, and you know, it's a lovely variety. I mean, if you look at the size of the berry, you can understand we do not bleed off any juice. We make it in the most natural way possible. You can get a darker by bleeding off juice, but I don't think it was ever meant to be made like that. I mean, we have enough varietals with immense extract. Beautiful, medium-bodied wine, lovely aromatics. I get strawberry, raspberry, and then that Southern Rhone rusticness at the back.
Very nice. I'm liking Cinsaut more and more as I get older.
Yes.
I don't know if it's an age thing.
I think it must be.
But I think it's a world wide thing at the moment. There's a lot of trend. America's going big on Cinsaut. Europe seems to be going big on Cinsaut.
Swartland is pioneering it in South Africa at the moment. But what we did also, if you look at the price points, we tried to keep it affordable because we want people to try.
What's the cost of this?
This is under 100 rand.
Wow.
So there was a question online as well as the pricing of all your wines, if you could, when you go through them. So about.
We talk roughly, Sauvignon Blanc, again, about 100 rand a bottle. Cinsaut, it's about 75 rand a bottle. Cinsaut. Rosé, I think up to the Shiraz, they're all under 100 rand a bottle. The Pinotage and the Malbec, about 137 rand. That's now tasting room, you know, standard farm prices. So on the estate range, we try and keep the pricing very keen because we want people to try it.
Yeah.
And we would rather sell more of it in the end, but that everyone can get a really lovely wine at a great price point.
Another question came through is when you're going to make a Cinsaut Rosé?
At this stage, our Cinsaut is too precious to use for the rosé. We've got lots of other varietals that we can make the rosé from. We are actually going to the jury's still out when, but the oldest vineyard on the farm is a 1952 block Cinsaut, and I've made for the last 2 years just a couple of barrels from that, and I'm currently tasting and blending and seeing if we're gonna perhaps bottle by the end of this year the 2021 as a single varietal Cinsaut to go with our 1953 Pinotage as mother and son.
Is that older than me? And that's saying something.
Well, I mean, the Chateau Libertas has Cinsaut as one of its major blending factors, and it's interesting. This week, they're launching the Dampy Bailey Chateau Libertas, sort of honouring him.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So I don't want to take away from Bellevue, but I think
No,
it's amazing.
he did a stern job for Pinotage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so my question is around consistency. Well, I've tasted this wine before, but it was a 2019 vintage. How crucial is that for you to be consistent?
It's extremely important for us because we want the consumer, and remember I was a wine consumer I had a 20-year career in something else before I started making wine full time. So I was a consumer with a couple of thousand bottles of wine in my own cellar before I started making wine full time. So if I see a wine on a label, and I've had it before for the previous 3, 4, 5 years, I want it to taste the same. And I think that's also why we are very successful with Woolworths, because we do produce a Pinotage just for them, And the Malbec we're going to taste a little bit later, we do for them. And some great news is the Shiraz, they are going to launch in October,
Wow.
a Shiraz that we're going to produce for them. And I think there it's about consistency.
Yeah.
We've been making wines for them for the last 22 years. And it's all about, for them, it's all about consistency, and we subscribe to that same way of thinking. If you know that label,
Yeah.
you don't want a different wine every year. Obviously, because these are estate wines, they are grown, made, and bottled and labeled on Bellevue. It's much easier to have the consistency than if you have to buy in grapes from one vineyard and another the next year and try and have consistency there.
Well, did you ever had a year where you didn't have consistency, so you skipped a vintage?
No, we're fortunate because we have so many vineyard sites that we can choose and we can blend for each varietal, for each wine from that. And also South Africa, we're not like the Northern Hemisphere where that's why you barely ever get Petit Verdot in a Bordeaux blend from Bordeaux. 5 out of 10 years, if not more, they don't ever get it right because it's a late ripener. We have an abundance of sunshine. We typically have really good winters. We've had 3 dry ones, 2 to 5 years ago. But it's not, on Bellevue, it's not difficult to have consistency from vintage to vintage. And I mean, I can see that in the 20 vintages I've done there. The wines are very much recognizable with that little golden thread that connect all of them as from that specific estate, from that property, and with the same winemaking team.
Which leads into a beautiful question from Chelsea Bird. What makes your signature range different to other wines?
Okay, the signature range, which we call the Reserve Collection, they are all malolactic in barrel, and they in total staying 2 years in barrel. The estate range will do malolactic in tank. I'm talking about the Malbec and the Malbec and the Pinotage, and the Shiraz and the Cinsaut. They will do malolactic in tank first, and then they'll go to barrel for a year. So the really special serious wines, we always have 2 sets of barrels, 2 vintages at any given time in the barrel at the same time, because they spend between 23 and 24 months in barrel, and they all do malo in barrel. Okay, shall we go on to the next one? Yes.
So I know Bellevue do produce MCC, and then why we're not tasting it today?
Because the MCC is not part of the standard estate range.
Okay. I really love that MCC.
Does that also? Good. Okay. Next wine up is Pinotage, and I should spend a little bit longer on Pinotage because Bellevue is absolutely synonymous with Pinotage. We planted with Canonco the first fully commercial vineyards of Pinotage in 1953. At that stage, we were not bottling. All the wines went to Stellenbosch Farmers Wineries. They bought the wines from us. And the 59 vintage was entered in, it was then called the Cape Wine Show, which is now the National Young Wine Show. And it won the General Smuts Trophy as the best 1959 wine of all in South Africa. And it was quite a shocker, this South African varietal cross between Pinot Noir and Cinsaut plant material. That this is actually, it won against all the so-called noble French varietals. Just a little question, between Pinot Noir and Cinsaut, or Hermitage as the French call it, which is the mother and which is the father of Pinotage? And why? Okay, most people, I'm not trying to line you up here for destruction, most people would guess Pinot Noir is the mother because it's more feminine and the more finicky sometimes. But actually, Pinot Noir is the father. The reason's very simple. It's all because it comes from the vineyards by plant material. Pinot Noir flowers earlier than Cinsaut, and you cannot keep the flower alive. But they took the pollen and they froze it, and they kept it until the Cinsaut flowered, and then they pollinated the Cinsaut flower with the pollen from the Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is the father, and Hermitage Cinsaut is the mother.
Never heard that one. That's fascinating.
Okay, so Yes, Bellevue absolutely synonymous with Pinotage. When I started with Bellevue, we have 40 hectares of Pinotage. We have a little bit less now. Some of the old vineyards that really didn't produce any workable volumes anymore, we had to take out. But many winemakers don't like Pinotage for the simple reason it ferments at a terrific rate. Pinotage can ferment down 10 degrees Belling in one night, no problem. If a winemaker cut his or her teeth on Bordeaux varietals and they deal with Pinotage the first time, it's scary for them. I walked into a cellar with all that Pinotage and I had to swim or drown, and yeah, we're still here. We love Pinotage, and we do a whole range of them. This is the estate Pinotage, which has previously won APSA top 10 twice, in the top 20 quite a few times. But we also do a reserve collection Pinotage that's done very well, 5-star platter, Parisian top 10, second highest scoring wine, and a few other double bill Veritas, etc. So Pinotage is in our blood. It's part of who we are. We love the varietal, but we also make it in a style that shows respect to the parents. Again, we do not bleed off any juice. We do not try and over-extract. We want to keep the elegance of it. We're trying to produce swimmers and gymnasts, not boxers and rugby players when it gets to wine. I mean, that's the style we prefer, and we believe with Pinotage, if you see who the parents are, that is the way to go. Again, there are similarities with the Cinsaut, is again that strawberry, raspberry, but very much the raspberry character, that almost a little bit of tart, some sweetness, but it's bone dry. Pinotage, typically even winemakers, if they guess the RS, the residual sugar, in many cases they guess it's sweeter than what it is, because the specific fruit of Pinotage seems to the palate and the way our brain processes it sweeter than what it actually measures.
So I have a question. Do you guys mature your Pinotage into American oak or French?
This specific Pinotage is 100% American oak, but with a twist. French-made American oak.
Oh.
Now that sounds weird.
Yes.
The French actually owns forests in the US. In this wine we use Vicard and Navalier. They're both Bordeaux Coopers, but they own forests in America. They fell the trees, they saw it into staves, they ship it to France, they air dry it for 36 months, and then they make it toast the barrel. And I've tried, they also have cooperages in the US. I've tried those barrels. Wine wines don't like it. A winemaker actually doesn't choose the barrel, the wine chooses the barrel. You have to obviously put the wine to barrel and expose the wine to that specific barrel, but ultimately the wine will tell you whether that barrel works for it or not.
So was it the first fold or?
This is 25% each, first, second, third, and fourth on the estate Pinotage. The reserve Pinotage is only French oak, and that's about 60% new. And then that 1953 Pinotage, that old block, is also about 60% new, and the rest third, fourth. But from Burgundian coopers.
So you've done such a good job. You have got Lusanda online, who wants to know where she can get some right now. Is it available at Tops at Spa?
Pinotage.
Well, no, any of your ones?
Malbec and Pinotage they can get from Woolworths. The rest I normally get from some of the Topses, not all of them. Because Tops, some have central buying and some the proprietor of that store can choose.
Okay. Nice question.
If they want it next week, they can order it. Why don't they?
And she wants it now.
Or we'll wait for her if she's not too far away.
And then I've got another question, just while we have taken, is malolactic in barrel, is the oak extraction just better, or what makes the difference from Hickley's low?
I wouldn't say better, I'd say different. You get different character. The interaction between the oak and the toasting, there's obviously a little bit more movement in the barrel. So the extraction, I think it happens a little bit quicker, but then it settles down. Because the total acidity drops after malolactic. What I typically do is after malolactic, only then we sulfur up, and then we adjust the acidity because it drops during mallow. And then the wines stay in barrel for just over a year on the malolactic lees. That settles down. And then we taste them all, smell them, check them out, and then we rack them off the mallow lees break down the stack of barrels, wash them, have a look at the wine if you want to perhaps adjust the sulfur a little bit more, and then we put them back into the barrels. It is a job, but in the end, I think you get finer grain tannins. You can work with a finer grain barrel as well if you do Mallow in it. We don't use any open grain barrels for Mallow, because then you might get over extraction of the oak. And again, it's all about balance, balancing the fruit with the tannin and with the oaking. In the end, I think those should play the background music to the varietal character. And we've seen that years ago. We did a tasting with Angela Lloyd of our American oak Pinotage against our French oak Pinotage. After 5 years in bottle, it was difficult for me as the winemaker to say which was which, because the varietal reigned supreme. The fruit survived to the point where it decided what the wine was, not the oak. Okay, on to the next wine, Shiraz. This specific Shiraz was commissioned by a previous distributor of ours, and he wanted a wine that was really very smoky, like German smokehouse charcuterie. A lot of people smell it and they say, oh, that's bacon kippersky, that kind of character. You need quite a full Shiraz to work with this amount of oak, and it's all medium plus toasting. Funny enough, when you bottle it, after about 3 months in bottle, then the white pepper and almost a little bit of the herbaceous side comes through. Initially, it's very much on the oaky side. And it's interesting, in our restaurant, I watch the people, what they drink and how they drink it. And it's interesting, we all try and make wines, winemakers typically, we try and make wines for the connoisseurs, you know, for the Cape Wine Masters, and for our fellow winemakers and for ourselves. But the public in general loves a wine that when we speak about it, they totally get it. You know, if you start going truffles, earthy, forest floor, not everyone has that connection. But when you go like this, smoky beef, that kind of character, it is there. It's undeniably there, and it's obvious, and it's a full-bodied wine. As I say, you need really good fruit to be able to handle that amount of oak. And this is a very similar wine to this that Will was commissioned, that we will launch in October from their shops as well.
I like a pepper steak on the brine now with this.
Yeah. Wow.
And again at under 100 rand price point. Obviously, you couldn't go and buy new barrels for it. So the new oak is alternative oaking, but we ferment it on it, we do mallow on it, and then it goes for a year to older barrels to integrate and to become one.
Two minutes.
Right. Okay, the last wine, and that is someone who used to work for us. She used to call us, you know, it's your wild child. You know, that daughter with the blue hair and all the piercings. It's a wild wine. It's different. It's very herbaceous. Malbec. A lot of people think it's from Argentina because they've planted the most hectares, and you can't go to a UK supermarket shelf and not see 5 or 6 different Malbecs. It is originally from France. It's from the Cahors region, which is Bordeaux, can be one of the 5 varietals in the Bordeaux blend. We get that rosemary, mint, buchu, fynbos, herbaceous character in this, and obviously we try and protect it. Dirkie started with 6 barrels of this. We're up to 100, 300 litre barrels of this wine now. It's grown that big for us, and I believe it's because it's different, it's unique. Typically you invite someone, new friends, for a dinner party, and this wine you put it on the table, and people smell it and hold it under one another's noses because it's different. It's not just another Merlot or another Cab, it's something different. Again, pungent aromatics but soft tannins. You get, Michael Friedel says watercress. Yes, I get that. Rosemary, mint, buchu, fynbos, watercress. But the primary flavors are plummy and it's soft. Obviously we use barrels that enhance that. We use yeast that enhance that and protect that, because I think that is part of the signature of this wine that makes it so recognizable and goes with Karoo land like you can't believe, because Karoo Lamb's got that Karoo Bush infused character. It goes really well with that. And again, because the tannin structure is soft and friendly, you can chill it a little bit in summer and also enjoy it there.
Thank you very much for that. It was a lovely trip down to the whole range of your wines. It's lovely.
Thank you.
So we just got to another part of our live. So we're just gonna take a quick Q&A from our guests here.
Just quick, is your winery, is it child friendly?
Yes, it is. We actually have, and they in their winter recess now, and they're shuffling a few things around. We hope to have a date when the restaurant is going to be active again. But there is a separate restaurant that's kid friendly, with a play park for the kids and a pizza oven. That the guys with kids don't have to worry about what the neighbor next door is going to say. That they can be as loud as they want and have a safe area where the parents can watch them from the terrace and not worry about it.
That's very nice, thank you.
Do you have another question?
Yes. Do you have a personal favorite out of the wines you presented today?
I think for me, it's like having to choose between your children. Ideally, if we had the time, you should ask me, when do I prefer that wine? That's normally with seafood. That is when I don't want something serious, I just want to relax on the terrace in the sun. Cinsaut, whenever I've had enough of big ones. Pinotage, when I feel like the heart of Bellevue.
Okay.
Shiraz, when I need something smoky and beefy. And then Malbec, when we feel a bit crazy.
All of us.
I've got
So
two quick online questions.
Yeah.
The ageability of the Shiraz, how long can that on for?
Typically, I would say drink it in about a 5-year span from when it's released. I keep some in my home cellar for very long to see what it actually does. I would say it's in its sweet spot for about the first 5 years after you've released it. It gets less smoky, less savory as it gets older, but it still stays a rather pleasant wine. But I would say have it in the first 5 years after its release.
And your Pinotage, how long does it age?
I've got Pinotage in my cellar down from 1999 and it's still drinking beautifully.
When I was born.
Then I've got one on the side here from Chelsea again. How would you prepare a beautiful fresh tuna steak and what white wine would you pair it with? It's a nice food question.
Actually, I'm gonna disqualify myself on that one because I would have Pinotage with the tuna steak. Yes. Sauvignon Blanc, classic. It will work nice. We have a Chenin from a single vineyard that's part of the old wine project that will work lovely with it. Chardonnay, obviously, will work beautifully with it. But I think more of us should break that tradition of just having white wine. Remember, tuna is very much like, I mean, it's the beefiest fish you get, almost. I love Pinotage with Haljoen, that I catch myself, and I love it with tuna. So try that. But for the rest, all our wines, the Sauvignon Blanc, the Chenin Blanc, and the Chardonnay all work really well with it.
So now it's time to pick our winner for the giveaway competition that we set up earlier this week.
What are people
and of course,
winning?
powered by you.
What are people winning?
They're actually getting all this
A full set.
wines there
Full set,
that
yeah.
we just said it, and we just tested today. So if you can just pick a name for me quickly, then we'll see if the person is still watching.
Just mix it up a bit. We don't want someone to order us afterwards. Go.
Okay. Let's see who it is. Simon H143.
Are they online? Yep.
The online? Okay, we need to check another one.
Simone, it looks like Simone H143.
Yeah.
Oh, we know.
Okay, let's see. Who asked for the lucky?
Someone's getting lucky.
She's online.
She's
She's online, okay.
She's online.
Yeah, so we
She's
have
online.
That's good, you've got it with it.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. We had a very fantastic tasting today. Thank you very much for your time, and we hopefully want to see you again.
Thank you. Maybe we can do a reserve collection tasting and some of the other special ones.
Yeah.
It's all about sharing the experience, sharing the wines.
Yeah.
That's why we make them. That's why we
Actually, the other day I visited Bellevue, and it was my birthday actually. I went for a tasting, and one of the staff found out later that it was my birthday. They offered me the reserve. It was extra special.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was absolutely